to create a place for women journeying with cancer to be inspired and to shake up the way we look at cancer so we can activate the power of our minds to heal us from the inside. Welcome to this series, Rethinking Cancer. I'm Cindy Scott, two-time cancer thriver and author of the Healing Journal. This series is sponsored by Evolving Women, an online healing sanctuary for women journeying with cancer. You can find them at evolvingwomen.co. Hello, lovelies. I'm Cindy Scott, your host for today's episode of Rethinking Cancer, and I am super excited to be introducing you to the lovely Ina Segal. She is an international intuitive healing educator, speaker, author, and TV host. Ina says the body doesn't lie. She teaches us how to understand the language of the body and tap into our own innate wisdom to unlock our true and vibrant potential. Ina suggests that each part of our body contains a message about our way of life. After Ina endured years of excruciating back pain and a skin disorder coupled with anxiety, she began a deep journey of self-inquiry where she was able to connect and heal the relationship with her physical pain and her emotions. In this process, she discovered she could see the disease as energetic blocks in her body and how to heal them. Her incredible book, here it is here, The Secret Language of Your Body, which was first written in 2007, was a terrific support to me during my healing journey with cancer. So much so, I referenced this book in my own book, The Healing Journal. When I was diagnosed, I went on a quest for answers about why cancer had shown up in my life. And thanks to Ina's book, this led the way to my own deeper self-inquiry as to the thoughts, energy, and emotions which may have been affecting my health and why cancer may have shown up for me. So welcome today, Ina. I'm so delighted to have you here.
Thank you, Cindy.
So I'd love to start with, tell us a little bit about your own personal journey and particularly around some of the ailments that you were experiencing in your body, which led to your discovery.
Yeah, so I was having a lot of back pain, digestive issues where I'd end up in a hospital just in pain and stay there for about, I don't know, a day and then be told to go home. I had my dad and my grandfather had psoriasis on their skin, and I started to develop that pretty early on in my life as well. And then to top it all off, I think as things were getting progressively worse, I was starting to get anxiety about all of it. And so from about 18, I started to visit a lot of different health practitioners. Before that, I was just going to doctors mainly, a little bit of physio. And there was a moment that I realized that I was actually spending my whole life at somebody's office. I also feel like with healing, for a lot of people, there's a turning point where they make a decision, and the decision is that I'm really involved in this healing journey. And so it's me who's got to make changes. And so for me, it was the day that I woke up, I couldn't move. My whole spine was stuck. Half of my body was turned in one way, the other way. And I ended up at this chiropractor's office who I'd been seeing for at least a year by that stage. And he was aware of how bad it was. And he came out of his office as I was in the waiting room. And he just looked at me and he said, your body's stuck. And I said, yeah, I know that part. What are you going to do about it? And it was really interesting, the words that I used, what are you going to do about it? And he just looked at me and he just said, nothing. And I said, what do you mean nothing? And he said, well, your body wants to be stuck, go home. And I have to say, on the way back home, I was in absolute rage of how dare he speak to me like that and say that when I'm in, so much pain. But it was a complete shift because at that point, something else showed up, which was, oh my God, my body has a language. What is this language that I need to understand? And the other thing that occurred was that I actually made a decision that I was going to heal myself. I had no idea how I was going to do it. I was in my very early 20s, but I had decided that I was going to go home and connect to my body. And so I did. I went home and I started breathing with the pain, as opposed to resisting the pain and completely holding my breath and holding on to what the pain was about. And then I decided I was going to count backwards from 30. And as I was counting backwards, mainly because my mind was coming in and doubting everything, it occurred to me that maybe I don't know how to do this on my own. And so even though I was a very skeptical person, even at that stage, I was saying, okay, if there is something divine out there that I want, then I want help and I want to know. And at that point, this warmth just kind of moved through my body, and I had my eyes closed and I could just see this gold light, and I thought, okay, something's happening. And then it occurred to me to say, what does my back look like? And I didn't even know where that thought came from. But at that point, it just felt like a light switch had gone on, and I could literally see into my back and spine as if I had X-ray vision. And I can't say I was excited about it. I was more shocked. And from that point, questions started to come up. Why do I have this at this point in my life? And because I'm a very visual person, I would get visual images. And so I saw my childhood and moving to Australia and not knowing how to speak the language and being bullied when I was pretty young because I didn't fit in. I wasn't part of it. And so that later on, I made a lot of connections around my back and spine and why I didn't feel supported from such an early age. Because what people need to understand is things don't just happen in the body instantaneously. It takes years and years. And so then from that, the image kind of followed into the fact that my parents also came to Australia, didn't know how to speak the language, didn't have any friends, didn't have any support. And so they were constantly in conflict with each other. And I would come home and I would just not feel safe, or I wouldn't feel comfortable with what was going on. So again, if we start looking at what's the back, what's happening in the back, it's support. And so is your digestive system, digesting the experiences. And then I became aware also of the ancestral aspect of this whole scenario, which was my grandparents. And both of them had gone through kind of hell and back in very early stages of their lives, which again showed up in my early life, where my grandmother lost her whole family and actually had her mother be shot in front of her to save her life. And my grandfather ended up in Siberia in a camp, a work camp for something he didn't do for 10 years of his life. So there's a lot of emotions that had not been processed by them. And they essentially, I guess, they couldn't even talk about it for 50 years. And so once they felt they could talk about it, it came out of them and mainly onto me and my cousins. And so I realized all of this aspect, including that I was one of those people who really genuinely wanted to help other people as well from early age, and I didn't know how to. So I would essentially, like most children, they can do that. I would absorb other people's negative energy and hold it within myself. And so in that several hours that followed this tuning in experience, so much was revealed to me that, and I gave myself permission to feel through it, not to just understand it in my head, but to really feel through it in my inner being. And the following day when I woke up, the pain was gone, had diminished by 70%. and my back wasn't stuck anymore. So I realized that something profound had happened and I needed to go deeper into that exploration. And so for the next several weeks, I literally hardly got out of bed. I was just trying to explore and understand what was going on. And after that, I realized that as much as my own capacity to tune into myself had awoken, that I was also able to do it with other people. Hence, I started helping people, and that's how the book kind of came about.
Incredible. I mean, there's so much we could unpack in just what you've said, but I loved what you said right from the beginning when you said that you were so busy going to other people to get comfort, to get fixed. And I think a lot of people could relate to like a bevy of appointments, reading another book, going to another massage, all the different things that we do to try and stay on top of our health or to move away from pain. So it was like your chiropractor actually kind of gave you the shove that you needed for you to sort of go, well, hey, stop relying on me, start going inward and actually start inquiring within yourself what might be going on within you. And it sounds like you did just that. Like it was really the shove that you needed to go, I'm so exasperated, I've got to find something else. I've got to do something different, right?
Yeah. And I think sometimes a healing journey really begins from honesty, very profound, not very pleasant, not the kind of honesty we want to hear. But absolutely, he was the person that kind of, allowed me to go into that experience. And it was really interesting because about 6 months after I had my healing transformation, I went to see him and he said to me, I don't know what you've done, but it's worked. So keep doing it. And again, it was just a really beautiful acknowledgement of one, that healing really does reside inside of you. And I remember I said to him, can you be honest with me how much of what's going on with people's spines and their health is actually their experience, their emotions, what they've gone through in their life? And he said, well over 90%.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So you're just going in for a tune-up, really, but the responsibility sits with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So would you have described yourself as an intuitive person prior to that sort of aha moment that you had?
I feel like I didn't really know what that even meant, to be honest. It was, did I have intuitive feelings or hunches about things? Yeah. But to me, it was more like, well, everybody does. So I didn't actually, it never occurred to me that any insights or feelings I might have had about anything prior to that would have been any different to anybody else.
Well, they do say we're all intuitive. It's just a matter of whether you tune into it or not, actually adhere to it.
I agree.
So you found yourself in a moment where it was like you must have hit an exasperation point. The Cairo said, look, go home, work this out. You're on your own, kind of thing. And you sat with yourself and you started to inquire, probably at a deeper level than you ever had prior to that. And you were getting those visions of what is actually going on in my body, what's going on with my spine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds to me like there was a point where you got really curious and thought, I'm going to take back my own power and I'm going to work on what I can do to heal from within. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So then you started to allow feelings that you might not have allowed before or might not have even had awareness of before. So how did that go for you?
I really felt like it, and I want to say that it's still a journey. The pain part released reasonably quickly, I felt, but the actual self-inquiry, the understanding of why do I feel, do connect to somebody, or react in a certain way? That's still an inquiry, I feel. But in terms of actual feelings, it was like I was connecting to my soul, to be honest. It was like I was going on a journey so deep within that I was able to discover parts of myself, my family, that I didn't really know or understand before, or have a connection with. And I felt that over time there was a profound, through me giving myself permission to befriend my feelings, I'm going to say, to befriend my destiny or the experiences that were happening to me. I felt like I was able to connect to my grandparents and understand them. I was able to help them before they died, to let go of what they were holding, not all of it, obviously, but some of it. And with their pain, I was able to help my mom transform lots of things. And she also actually had gone through an experience of having cancer and then healing from it. And the journey that we both had in, me supporting her and guiding her, and her actually really participating and softening and understanding things, was profound, I felt. And I guess, on the biggest scale, it opened up my capacity to help other people, and to relate to other people, and to understand how connected we actually are, and that every part of the body has this incredible wisdom inside of it, and that the body wasn't the enemy, it was a friend. But I had to, like with a human being, I had to make an effort to become friends with it, as opposed to just ignore it or treat it like I didn't care. And so I would give people an analogy, that if a friend came to your door, and knocked on the door, and you just went, no, I'm not answering, and again knocked on your door again, and you just ignored it, and finally you open the door and you're like, what are you doing here? And the friend said, hey, I want to come visit you, I want to connect with you, and you're like, oh, just come in, make yourself comfortable, do whatever you need to do, get your own cup of tea or coffee or whatever, I'll come say hello later. I mean, if we start to understand things from that perspective, we would go, oh, actually, if I keep seeing my body as getting sick, not listening to me, not complying almost with what I'm demanding of it, because we don't necessarily even know how to communicate or be loving with the body, we just demand, then the result is going to be complete disassociation. So most people live in their heads. They don't really live in the body or have an understanding, let alone the soul and what the role that it plays.
Yeah. What an amazing opportunity that you were able to not only support your family, when you're, your lineage, your grandparents and your parents, but to be able to get their learnings, like you helped heal them, but then to get those learnings that you could take on at a cellular level for yourself as well. So what an opportunity to heal within your own family line. That is such an incredible opportunity that not many have, and not many would have the skills to have either. Amazing. I just I'm really curious how you made the connection between feelings, the thoughts and feelings and energy, and what was going on in your body. Like when did you sort of twig onto that?
Well, I feel like it was really interesting because at that time my partner who I was with was exploring a lot of different aspects, including a lot of people are familiar with Louise Hay, and he had given me the book prior to my own experience, and there was a part of me that I didn't feel was really connecting, even though I had looked at it and read it. And so I really understand a lot of people who are new to this, where they would be quite skeptical, because I'd read it and I'd do the affirmation and I didn't actually honestly feel like there was any change. And so because I didn't feel there was a change and I wasn't really even open to or understanding how to work with the body, I felt like it mustn't work. And so in my own experience after seeing the chiropractor, what I realized, and it was over the 3 weeks really after, was that there were certain aspects that would allow me to connect, and that was touch. I needed to touch a part of my body, especially because I was so disconnected, where I was exploring, or trying to get some insight from. I needed to breathe in that area at times, and this was later on because I really couldn't get up earlier. I needed to move my body and shake it and really bring it back to life, so that there was an ability to feel it, as opposed to the fact that it was quite asleep. I needed to ask questions, and I need to ask the right questions. So I realized that there was a way of asking questions that would lead you on a victim journey of, poor me, this happened to me, what have I done wrong? Or there was a way of asking questions and allowing a response or an insight to come through, where you were very curious and open to, I guess, your inner self, your intuition, to show you what actually occurred. What was this related to? At which point did I have an experience where I started to tense up, I started to shut down, I started to disassociate, what happened, and what was the point of view that I took on, which has made me see life in a particular manner, and is the way that I'm seeing life right now, is that creating my experience, and is that coloring my experience, and is that in the whole of what's possible in life, is that what I'm looking for? Is that where my focus is? So in recognizing all of this, I felt like it gave me that opportunity to one, let go of what didn't work, and start to really explore what it is that I felt that I guess that would be healthy. But there was also an aspect of that I feel everybody comes up to, which is self-worth. Do I deserve this? And it's not necessarily even conscious, but it's sitting there because on some level, because we've been punished as children, we feel that sickness or something bad happening in our lives is some kind of punishment. And so people then take it on board as well, somehow I deserve this, or even if they say I don't deserve it, there's some part of them that is holding on to it. And the more I've explored, the more I've realized that there's ways to work in terms of your emotions, but there's even better ways to actually work on understanding yourself. And that is a recognition that we have this archetypal energies. And I know Carl Jung was the one who kind of popularized this. But when we have, and most people have heard of something like the inner child, and so we have some kind of recognition that maybe in our childhood there were, as I was saying, we absorb something because, and a lot of people talk about boundaries and how important it is to have healthy boundaries. But as a child, you don't have any of those. And so when we start to go on this really profound journey of exploration, we start to realize, well, actually, at all these different ages, there's things that I took on that are not serving me and not helping me. And these parts of me that are stunted could be leading me in my life. And I remember one of my best friends, her husband, he was doing a course, not with me, but with somebody else. And he was in his 40s at the time. And I remember having a chat with him and I said, so what did you gain from doing this? And he said, a realization that my 5-year-old is driving my life.
Oh, wow.
And I feel like this journey of exploration is so profound, and that sickness in itself, as much as we don't like it, nobody wants to get sick, and all of us want a magic wand and, just show me how to get rid of this in 5 minutes. The actual capacity to tune in as opposed to tuning out and understanding what's going on gives you your life purpose. Essentially, it shows you, what am I here to do? What am I here to discover? What do I need to understand? What steps have I skipped because I've been living on the surface as opposed to living deeply? And I remember even my mom, she's had this really challenging relationship with her brother. And when she was going through her cancer experience, one of the things, I remember we had this conversation and she said, I'm really connecting to love for everyone, and including my brother. And there was this massive forgiveness that happened for her at the time. And I said to her, wow, because you've been saying for years how you don't get along, how you're so different and so on. And she said, yeah, but right now in this moment, I'm, in a place of real forgiveness for him. And I remember how there was such lovingness and softness that was coming through her. And it was really beautiful because she had discovered things within her own self that, were profoundly healing for everybody. And so not just for her, but for me and everyone involved. So I feel like when we, and it's really interesting because I have actually worked with a lot of people who either have cancer, recovered from cancer, or are working with people who are going through cancer. And I remember this lady said to me, who was working in the hospital, she said, one of the most difficult things is for people to face their emotions around it. And she said sometimes they would rather die than face it. And I remember being quite shocked because she was working, constantly on a daily basis. And she said to me, and yet that's the main thing that heals you. So it is, it's a real exploration. Sorry, I kind of waffled on.
No, you're so full of so much wisdom and insight. I'd just love to unpack it all. You just made me think back to when I was diagnosed for the second time, and I had already been working with this body worker, and I was on her mat, bawling my eyes out. I had told her I'd just been diagnosed. And she's a very wise, incredible woman herself. And she said, oh, well, your soul will be getting something from this. And in that very moment, like just this thought bubble came up, and it was like, yes, I'm finally going to get a rest. And I thought, I have been overriding the messages of my body my entire life, like as a single mom, running a business, keep pushing. And I was stuffed. I was really, really tired. And I thought, on some level, have I manifested all of this just to get a break? So that actually led me to, going in search of, and not to make it like a punishment, or that it was wrong that I got cancer, but I got curious about, I do believe my body created the cancer. I think we all have cancer cells, but some of us have cancer cells that go rogue and some don't. But I thought, what's going on? Why has this shown up again for a second time in my life? So I got really curious about it. Rather than making it wrong or right, it was, I just want to get curious. What is it here to show me, to teach me, to affect change around? And so, your book certainly was a big part of that exploration. And I'd love to just read what you've written in here around what is the root cause of cancer, if that's all right with you.
Yes, please.
So on page 141, and this is the latest version, cancer. And for those who are listening, I encourage you just to think about, does this sound like you? Does this sound like something that may be playing out as a pattern in your life? Feeling limited, angry, fearful, out of control, carrying wounds from the past, feeling not good enough, shrinking inside, attacking yourself from within, feeling like guilt, grief, and uncertainty are eating away at your body, being on guard, never able to relax and let go, often pushing yourself to do more than you can handle, trying to please others, and constantly seek approval. There's an awful lot in there, Inna, but I think just about anyone on the planet could probably relate to some of that. I know for me, when cancer showed up both the first and second time, I knew that I was feeling very tightly strung, like, a ball of stress, and I was carrying a lot, and I felt a lot of responsibility for others, including my son and my business and my clients. So yeah, there was a lot of unraveling. There was a lot of inquiry to make around what were the patterns, the thoughts, the feelings that had brought me to this moment in time, and what did I need to change or shift? And there was actually a lot of work in that for me. I took myself on like a special project, and I just started throwing everything at it, because like you said from the very beginning, I was already going to a number of different practitioners to get healings and treatments, and in a way, very much empowering people external to me to help me, to heal me. And I thought, no, this isn't the right way around. I've got to reclaim my own power. I've got to find ways to do that for myself. I mean, I couldn't afford to keep seeing all these people anyway, but I thought, it's not really my recipe for healing if I need to rely on someone external to me. So those words were a really good start for me to inquire deeper within myself. And I think there's nothing like a cancer diagnosis and treatment journey to really force you to go within yourself and to get curious. And like that lady said to you, facing emotions. I mean, I'm probably some sort of anomaly in that I love looking at emotions. I love looking at myself deeper and looking at how can I be a better version of me. But not every soul is that way, and not everyone wants to look at their emotions and unpack them. So I'm hoping that might be one great takeaway from our chat today for listeners, to go, to have the courage to go there and to look at their emotions and potentially make some changes that might have brought them to the point where they're at now.
Absolutely. I feel like, I guess, from my perspective, we are here to grow, and everything in life gives you an opportunity to grow, to discover, to understand, to look within, to go, what's, like you said, what's working, what's not working. How deep do I want to need to go in terms of really exploring not just the physical elements that show up? I'm more of a believer of let's try and do this before something really serious shows up, if we can. And like you said, it's in this world that we live in that is so hectic, and things are, we're always running, to actually give yourself the time to meet yourself. I heard somebody say to partner with yourself. Is so profound, because the choices you make in life, the way you live your life, what is important to you, the way you think, the way you feel, the way you communicate, who you surround yourself with, what you bring into your life is completely different when you're conscious and when you're fully in it. And yes, going to people is great to get some support, but not when they become the savior or they become the one you're relying on. And I know when I was doing a lot of one-on-one sessions, which I don't do anymore, but when I was, so many people would email me or contact me, and there would be this desperation, and I understand that, and a sense of, you're my savior.
Fix me. Make this go away.
Yeah. Exactly. And I remember one of the experiences that I had very early on, when I was still in my early 20s, helping this lady, was that she came to me and she had 5 children, and she had arthritis and chronic fatigue, and I think fibromyalgia and so on. And during this particular healing session, I feel like she just let go, and she, something in her went, look, I want to show you what's possible. And so after the healing session, it was pretty much like a miracle. Like, everything that she'd been struggling with had disappeared. And I said to her at the time, as much as I know you're excited about this, I'm very nervous. And she said, why? And I said to her, because now you actually believe that I'm your savior when I'm not. And I feel like you're believing that it's outside of yourself. And what I'm saying to you is that in understanding subtle bodies, which I've spent a lot of years since then learning about, each subtle body that we have will do a different action. And, some of them, which is in particular the emotional one, can change like that, but it doesn't hold. And so people can have these amazing experiences, but unless they're actually making the changes within, it doesn't work, which is actually one of the main reasons I wrote the book, because I recognized that. And what happened for her was that the minute that she felt better, she started overdoing everything and doing the exact things that caused her to be sick in the first place. So she started overworking, doing everything for everybody else, not sleeping at night, starting a business, traveling. And I was like, within 6 months, if you keep doing this, and I know you're not listening to me, but if you can keep doing it, you're actually going to end up way worse than you were before you came to me. And she would say, yeah, but then I'll come to you again and and I'll be fine. I was like, well, it won't be the next time. Right. And everything I predicted happened to her. And it was like, well, I shared this with you. So until you make a decision, like this time it's going to be you, right? If you choose. And so that's what people need to be aware. Going to see somebody, I'm not against it in any way or form. I encourage it as a support, not as a way of them doing it for you.
Exactly right. I just love what you're saying in terms of, really actually taking yourself on like the project that you need to be in order to be responsible and accountable for what shows up. So I'm really curious, I read out from your book, the root cause that may be sitting at the base of what's going on for someone with cancer. What advice might you have for them? This might be new information for someone. They might find it quite confronting or challenging to even go there towards their emotions. But what advice might you have for them in terms of what would be some steps they might take to empower themselves to start healing from within?
Well, firstly, like you said, when you read that whole list, it can be overwhelming for somebody and they can go, I don't even know where to start, or maybe I don't relate to this or relate to that. And what I encourage people to do is to actually go, out of this whole list, what is the one thing that is really resonating with me right now, or the one that I want to resist the most and push away, right? The one that I'm like, oh, I don't want to look at this. And just take that one thing. And I would start with something easy like journaling. And I know it's not easy for everybody, but you need to be with you. And until you actually put some, we don't know what we think a lot of the time or what we're feeling. Mm-hmm. And so what I encourage people to do is to go grab, get a journal. I have just actually created a few different journals because I believe in them so strongly.
Journaling, yeah.
And start writing what that thing that you've picked or you're looking at, how does it show up in your life? So if I'm somebody who is a pleaser, and I've seen many people who have who get cancer in particular parts of the body based on just giving themselves away and over pleasing and so focused on having everybody be okay, and actually start looking at that and then go, how do I do that, and where does this come from? Mm-hmm. And start exploring at what point in your life did you decide that for you to be okay, you needed to please? And this is about any of the aspects. So I wouldn't go through all of them. I would literally take it, especially if we're talking about emotions, one at a time, and give it time. And then one of my big suggestions to people as well is to work with music and movement in terms of actually getting into your body. So I encourage you to create a playlist of songs that allow you to feel. So it's easy to say to somebody, just feel something. And if you're not used to feeling, then you have no idea how to do that. But most of us have connections to music that makes us have that feeling experience. So for me, for example, I have lists for everything in my phone for any scenario situation where I need particular music to allow me to feel or go into an experience. The other thing, as I mentioned, is actually placing your hands on that part of your body that you're exploring and going and breathing into it and going, what thought patterns are being held in this particular part of my body? And you can go on a deep journey towards it, or it can be very shallow. It's up to you. And as you look at the thought patterns, you might go, are these mine? Where have I been hearing them from? Does my mother say this? Does my father, does my partner, what's going on? There is also one of those big things that any diagnosis that is serious is showing you, which is your environment, because your outer environment will, without a doubt, reflect your inner environment and what's going on inside your body. Your body has to literally mimic whatever is going on outside. So again, many people are stuck in relationships that are not working for them, whether it's a relationship with a partner or a relationship with their boss or whoever it is. And
so by environment, you mean people, the people that are around you, or do you mean the physical environment as well?
Both, so for example, I found that I've traveled a lot, and there's certain places that I've been to or have lived in that my inner being just goes, I can't, this is not for me. It's just, I don't feel good here. Mm-hmm. And doesn't matter what I do, just I don't feel good here. It could be house, it could be a city, it could be working with somebody, situation could be living with somebody, but the mind overrides and goes, yeah, but I need to right now, or, and this is and so when the mind overrides it, the body reflects it. And healing needs to be done in a supportive environment. Mm-hmm. And so the big question that shows up is, what does that look like for me? How do I create that for myself, which is not an easy one. And it also often, the question that will come at you in terms of any illness is, what do I need to change? And when we're looking at change, we have to look at the body, and we have to look at this part of the body for thinking. You have to change your thinking. There is no ifs, buts, or anything around it. You just do. And sometimes it takes time, and it's not the easiest. And this is where I've come up with some pretty cool processes that people can do as well to go deeper into it, that are very simple. And then you've got to look at this area and the solar plexus, which is your emotional self. You got to connect with your emotions. Again, there is no way around it, because those emotions are connected to experiences that you've had, or potentially people in your family have had that you've absorbed. And then you have around the sacrum and your hip area, which is also very connected to your family. But this is an area to do with your will, which means in the physical world, you've got to make a change. You've got to, and that's the hardest one for a lot of people as well, because you might go, I've got to leave that job. I've got to leave that person. That's really difficult, because that's going to bring up a lot of stuff for you as well. I have to leave that situation, or I've got to let go of something that's not working for me. Whatever it is, there's going to be a change in the physical world that you're going to have to make as well. And so when we understand that thinking, feeling, and the will have to be aligned for you to make a lasting change, or it might be something that you need to do that you've refused to do.
So congruence, so the three centers need to be in alignment.
Yeah.
And I would imagine then that you would probably feel more aligned in your body. So that would play out on a physical level. You would feel more in flow with life as well.
You would. And also understanding that there is no timeline for a healing journey for somebody. Just, for one person, it may take a week to heal, or even a day. For somebody else, it might take 5 years or longer.
Or never. Yeah.
So if you start competing with other people or forcing, that's the other thing people do, they force, then you're going to be, it's going to be very challenging. But if you actually go, you know what, a huge part of it, and I actually read it today from somebody saying, I'm over those people who do self-love. And I'm like, that's because you don't understand it. Self-love is not about selfishness. Self-love is about actually being kind to oneself. It's actually going, so many of us don't know how to meet our own self and how to have kindness, and what does that mean? And this is why when we start looking at archetypal type work, in relation to emotional transformation and mental transformation, we can start to recognize that the part of me that got hurt when I was 15 stopped growing. And this is the part that when I get tired, when I feel lost, that's the part that takes over and is now operating. And so now we're having, I'm in a relationship or with whoever, and when there is a challenge, the part that never grew takes over.
Mm-hmm.
And this creates more pain, because when you're in your 40s, operating from a 15-year-old self doesn't work very well.
Not very cool.
Right?
No.
So, yeah.
Amazing. So some really great suggestions for people that may find themselves in treatment or even after treatment to go deeper within themselves and explore those emotions, how to connect with their feeling center. Really, really important tools to do. So I'm curious, what are you doing with yourself these days in your business?
I feel like it's quite interesting, that we all go through these stages of learning and kind of holding and space and exploring, and then all this productivity occurs. So I feel like in the last few years it's been my time of real productivity. So I've been writing another book, and I've got, I think, 2 card decks, 2 more journals, all coming out in the next kind of year. And at the same time, it's quite interesting that this whole scenario with, with COVID and us being all kind of given an opportunity to stay in one place has been great for me as well, because that's something that I haven't done for a long time, because I'm so used to just traveling and being somewhere. And I had a lot of resistance to teaching online previous to that. And I guess that new opportunity opened up. And so I've been doing a lot of online teaching so that people anywhere can really have access to the work and rewatch it and work with it ongoingly. And that's been amazing. So I've been teaching a 2-day course, a 5-day, a 10-day, based on different aspects of healing our emotional self, understanding what I'm talking about. Some of it is really about understanding working with your body. Some of it is understanding the feminine, the masculine aspect of us and our ancestry, and how that shows up in our lives, as well as the archetypes that we need to work with. And then have quite an in-depth course where people can just dive deep for 10 days and learn the tools that I've been working with people for the last 20 years, mm-hmm. and really healing and transforming. So yeah, always exploring different ways.
You're a true educator, a true teacher at heart, aren't you? To be sharing these gifts with the world.
I do my best.
How can people find you, Ina?
The easiest way is just to go to inasegal.com. That's INNASEGAL.
I'll put the link in the show notes too, so people can find it easily.
Great. And Facebook, I do a lot of posting with different ideas, and I do a lot of free masterclasses as well, so people can just get a taste and an exploration of what it's like to connect different pieces together. I feel that part of my big job is to put all the pieces of the puzzle together and figure things out.
And where can people find your book and your journals and all the other materials that you've got? Beautiful things to bring to the world, because I know in most of the stores that I go to, this book is everywhere. But where else might people find it if they're listening overseas or more rural areas?
I think the best way at this point if you can't get to a bookshop, which if you can, they can always order it, and it's great to support bookshops. They need it. But otherwise, online or Amazon will probably have it all.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for your time today, Ina. I've absolutely loved meeting you, getting to know you, hearing your story, learning some of your wisdom. I so appreciate your work, and please keep it up.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us today on Rethinking Cancer. I hope this episode has lifted your spirits. Come and join us again for more inspirational cancer thriver stories, expert interviews, and strategies to live your best life. Who knows, maybe it could be your story next. I'm Cindy Scott. Until we meet again.